I wanted a child, so I picked Alexander Hart. I had a 7-day relationship with him in Hawaii. At the end of the 7 days, I left a bank card on my bed and returned home in style. 3 years later, having been working behind the scenes, I made a high-profile career change to become a mommy influencer. The day after my fans broke 10 million, my villa was surrounded by a group of men in black. The rumored and mysterious head of San Francisco's wealthiest powerhouse kicked down my door. What a parental termination you've got going on. I wanted a child. So I chose Alexander Hart, because he had a top Chinese face, could afford a luxury resort. I overheard him on a work call in a restaurant and had a good head on his shoulders. I spent half a month approaching him, creating all kinds of chance encounters, and finally after half a month I walked into his room. Alexander Hart's technique was good for that face of his. With my senses amplified to infinity after being slightly drunk, and I've never been a good drinker, I looked at the man who was looking down at me from above, showing my teeth, one eye narrowed to a crescent moon. I opened my hands, he reached for something on the bed and I stopped him. No, I took my pills. He looked puzzled for a moment, then snapped and pinched my waist. You're still a leprechaun. I spent 7 days with him on the Hawaii Islands. We spent most of the entire 7 days in the hotel. Early in the morning, I woke up in the crook of his arm and opened my eyes to the divine face that had been sculpted by Michelangelo. I reach out and touch his skin, tracing his contours with my fingertips. This high nose, beautiful eyes, sharp jawline profile. The more I look at it, the more excited I get. Already my mind was conjuring up images of what my own future child would look like, and whether it was a boy or a girl, it was sure to be super good looking. Perhaps the excitement in my eyes was too obvious. He hooked his lips in a smile. What are you thinking about? I smiled back, my fingertips slowly going down. I was thinking about what a grand sensual treat it would be to watch a face like that move for me. He rolls me over violently and grips my wrists, his skeletal hands with long knuckles digging into my hair and clasping the back of my head with sudden force. When we've had enough fun in the room, we go out to see the sights. On the beach of the island, my skirt lifted by the sea breeze, he closes in on me from behind, his naked upper body, his hot, firm muscles pressing against my back. This man's body is so damn hot. Of course I wasn't the only woman who noticed his hot body. A blonde, blue-eyed foreigner went up to talk to him while he was alone on the phone. He waved his hand and refused, then returned to me. I laughed. You're a real magnet for butterflies, he said. If it wasn't for that physique, would it have attracted you? I incline my head and notice that the blonde foreign beauty is still coveting Alexander Hart, which stirs my desire to win. So I look down and leave a fragrant red lip on his chest. I raise my eyes and look at him with wet eyes. You're mine alone. His eyes changed and his breathing became heavier. That day, we didn't have time to go back to the hotel we stayed at before, but instead found a nearby hotel. The soundproofing of the hotel was not good, so I bit my lip to suppress the sound of my own voice spilling out. Alexander Hart's voice was a bit hoarse with a lazy nasal tone. Vivian, when don't hold back. 7 whole days of lingering. 7 days later, my assistant booked my return ticket to my home country, and just after I finalized my itinerary, Alexander Hart came over with red wine and red wine glasses. I was wearing his shirt, showing off my pale thighs, my slender body sinking into the couch. I threw my cell phone out of the screen and leaned to the side, leaving the neckline of my shirt unbuttoned, revealing a large expanse of spring. He poured red wine in his glass and I was just about to reach for it, but he bulldozed up. One hand pinched my neck, the other hand holding the glass of red wine. After drinking a mouthful of his own, lowered his head and kissed me. The sweet, clean red wine followed his kiss into my mouth, and my face flushed with heat. After the breathless kiss, he rose slightly and poured the unfinished red wine from earlier on my body. The white shirt was stained red and it looked particularly sultry and extravagant. I thought, anyway, it's the last night, so let's let loose one more time. So I took the initiative and kissed him. That night, I left the room while Alexander Hart was asleep, after leaving a bank card on the bed. My assistant, however, had already parked the car downstairs. 2 hours later, I was boarding a plane back to my home country to say goodbye to everything here. Things went well. My period didn't go as planned that month. I checked 2 bars. I was overjoyed and packed up my things and flew to France to recuperate, and 10 months later I gave birth to a high-caliber little princess. My mom and dad were able to hold a golden grandchild as they wished, and they stopped interfering with my career. But 2 years later, my mom inadvertently sent out of a cute baby video on the internet explosion, the likes of millions. I immediately smelled a business opportunity. From the owner of the jewelry design company high-profile change to mommy influencer. In just 2 months, it quickly gained tens of millions of Fans. As a result, something happened. Luna is now 2 years old. Long around little meat face, quirky character is very pleasing to the eye. The video posted by my mom unintentionally burst into flames, which exceeded my expectations. But this year, the company's business is not good. The short video industry is emerging. Many companies are rubbing this win to mix with the win. My assistant went to a guru to do some math. And this would be a perfect opportunity for a good cause. My company sells jewelry and clothing targeting women. If I can get my footing as a hot mom, the company won't have to worry about sales. As for Luna's real dad, in order not to create those useless ties, I never bothered to find out about him. Think of it as a fling, and the other party should forget about it quickly. Even if the other party really remembered and came to my door, I would pay him a fortune. I have plenty of money, but what I never expected was that the other party was richer than me. He didn't want my money, he wanted my life. The night my fans broke 10 million, I was so happy that I got drunk at home alone. It was a rare occasion that Luna went to stay at my mom's place, so I was alone to celebrate this historic moment. I fell asleep on the couch in the living room after drinking too much. I woke up early the next morning to the drastic ringing of my cell phone against my head, which was drowsy and stuffy from the hangover. I touched my cell phone that had fallen on the floor, and it was from my assistant. A dozen missed calls. What was so urgent? I frowned and clicked on the call button, and as soon as the call was connected, the assistant's heartbreaking voice came from the other side of the phone. Boss, run. I was a bit puzzled. The company didn't owe any money recently, but before the assistant had time to say the next sentence, the gate of my villa's yard was crashed open by someone driving a forklift. My sleepiness instantly woke up a big half, barefoot running out the door to see, found dozens of black-clothed bodyguards to my villa surrounded, and the forklift that crashed through my gate had also knocked over the succulents planted in my yard. Although I still don't understand how it is, but I think my hallowed Vivian Wen is also a strong woman who has seen big scenes. With my bare feet and my head in my hands, I yelled at the man who was holding it. "Who are you? I'm calling the police." Under the rule of law in China, these people can still be lawless. But in the next moment, a cold man in a black suit, long and straight, came out from behind the forklift. His expression was slightly angry, as if he was holding back something, and his hair, which should have been meticulous, was disheveled, and his shirt inside the suit was unbuttoned. It seems that he has not slept all night, just waiting for this moment to come to me to settle the score. The moment I met his line of sight, my legs went limp and I almost fell to my knees. He snorted out a cold laugh. "Vivian Wen, keep running. I also want to run, but my legs are weak. I can't run." Before the phone was hung up, the assistant's phone rang on the other side. She hissed, "Boss, that man you hooked up with in Hawaii before, he is the man in charge of San Francisco Hearts. He knew you were pregnant with his seed and ran away. He squatted at your parents' house in the middle of the night yesterday and picked up Luna early this morning. Boss, run. If he kills you, who's going to pay my salary?" The San Francisco Hearts. I'm no stranger to the term. Who doesn't know the famous Hart family, not to mention the man who came to power in the last 2 years and has never been seen on social media. I looked at the man in front of me. Compared to the lingering pampering on Hawaii Islands 3 years ago, at this moment he seems to have been consumed by anger, just waiting for the next step to tear me apart by hand to vent his anger. My voice began to stutter. Alexander Hart took a step and stepped over my shattered succulent and walked over to me. "You're good at parental termination." "I wouldn't dare." "Is there anything else you wouldn't dare?" I looked at the people who had surrounded my villa and also knew from my assistant on the other side of the phone that Luna had been taken away by him. "Who is he?" "Alexander Hart." "How dare I run?" I woke up with a hangover and with such a shock. My body of steel was paralyzed. I went limp softly along the doorframe and hastily admitted my mistake. "I am sorry, Mr. He. I know I'm wrong." Alexander Hart snorted as he tugged at his pants leg and sat down in a crouch, reaching out and cupping my face to make me meet his eyes. "Vivian Wen, an apology won't help for what you've done. At this hour, there are neighbors passing by on their morning jog. In the end, it's a rich area, and they still don't shy away from seeing the black-clad bodyguards tiptoeing to look inside. I am a young, beautiful, unmarried woman, but also sit in such a large villa. Before, the nanny in the neighborhood has long been said to be the adopted mistress. Now by Alexander Hart, such a mess. I guess it is going to sit on the charge that I am being adopted. In order to keep myself from becoming the windfall of public opinion in this neighborhood, I reached out and tugged on Alexander Hart's pant leg, looking at him with pleading eyes. Mr. He, young Master He, let's say I'm begging you this matter is my fault. Kill or die as you wish, but I beg you, can we talk inside?" After he finished, he waved his hand and left in style. I still want to be gossiped about here. He's not afraid of being humiliated. I am. Alexander Hart also noticed the neighbors gathered in front of the courtyard, and when he looked at me, he laughed. What, afraid of disgrace? I didn't answer, but after noticing the gazes of the others, I carefully moved to his side and blocked those gazes with his body. Alexander Hart raised his eyebrows, almost gritting his teeth, and whispered in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "You know you're embarrassed, too. I was much more humiliated than you were when you started the whole thing and ran away, leaving your bank card behind," he said. "Vivian, when you deserve this, huh?" That being said, Alexander Hart took me inside anyway, only it was his house. It's not even a house where Alexander Hart lives. It's the private residence of the head of the Hart family. It's one of the top downtown condos. The top 2 floors are open with huge panoramic windows overlooking the city at night and an infinity pool in the center of the city. It's really a luxury that ordinary people can't imagine. The man in black didn't follow me in. He sat on the black leather sofa and scorned me with his eyes. I know that my approach is not right. Normal men cannot accept that they have been abandoned, not to mention that this is the ancestor of 10,000 people. So I tried to look as sincere and lowbrow as possible so that he could feel my attitude of admitting my mistake. Before he could say anything, I nodded my head and took out the attitude I had when I first started my business of licking the A-side. "Mr. He, I didn't recognize you because I didn't know it was you. If I knew it was you, even if I borrowed 100 guts, I wouldn't dare to mess with you." I lowered my head and glanced with my remaining light to see that his face was still as black as the bottom of a pot. Feeling that my attitude wasn't sincere enough, I privately feel that this kind of level of luxury family is very concerned about bloodline. Although my family also has a little bit of money, but compared to the Hart family, it is nothing compared to the Hart family. Now Alexander Hart is so angry, it must be because I stole his Hart family's seed. Also, my behavior of leaving the bank card in the first place stung this ancestor's pride. After all, people like him are the only ones who lose their bank cards and tell others to fuck off. My behavior touched his scales. Seeing that he didn't say anything, I was again really worried about what he might do to Luna. Simply sit directly on my knees at his feet, hands together with a pleading face. Although I don't want to admit it, Luna is a bastard in their Hart family's eyes. If it was exposed, their Hart family would have another scandal for no reason. And now that Luna has become a multi-million fan baby on the internet, they must think that this is a long-planned plan by me to use Luna to threaten them to try to get to the top. In order to prevent this from coming to light, they would most likely go after me and Luna. As soon as I thought of this, I went ahead and explained. "Mr. He, don't worry, I will never threaten you with the child. I really didn't know your identity in the first place, and I didn't think of bringing the child back to you, not to mention that I wouldn't dare to think that she could have anything to do with the Hart family. You can rest assured that I will definitely keep this secret and then take her far away from you and the Hart family." My attitude was sincere, my tone soft, my eyes blinked and blinked, and I managed to squeeze out a few tears. I thought it was enough for me to interview Juilliard, but to my surprise, the more I said, the harder Alexander Hart's face looked. His face was blue, his eyes were cloudy, and when you looked closely you could see that he was clenching his back teeth. I couldn't understand why he was still so angry. I carefully speculated about the Sacred Heart, thinking that he might be more concerned about the fact that he was humiliated by me in the first place with a bank card. I had to humiliate him back, let him get his face back, so that he could get over it. So I compensated with a smile. I should not have left a bank card and left in the first place, and I deeply realized my own mistake. As soon as these words came out of my mouth, I saw his expression loosen up. I was overjoyed in my heart, feeling that I had found my way, and dog-leggedly moved forward, stretching out my small fists to give him a whack on the leg. "Very flattering. You should be the one who dumped the bank card for me and told me to get lost. I swear, as long as you take the bank card to dump me, I must listen to the word as far as possible to roll as far as possible." I didn't realize that before my words left my mouth, he just shook my hand away and wouldn't let me touch him again. His face was gloomy. Although he didn't go into a rage, I knew it was the calm before the storm. "Vivian, when you are even more shameless compared to 3 years ago. Me, huh? Where am I shameless? Well, it's true that parental termination is a bit shameless, but it's not a capital offense." I was about to admit my mistake like a concubine in a TV show when Alexander Hart's cell phone rang. I was about to say something, but he gave me a look, so I just sat back and waited for him to finish his call. I don't know what the person on the other end of the line told him, but his face became more somber, and when he hung up he stood up. He glanced at me, his tone icy. "You stay here while T tried to make any small moves, or..." He didn't finish his sentence, he just grunted coldly and turned away angrily. I watched as he walked out the front door and closed the top security door with a bang. I froze in place before collapsing onto the expensive wool carpet of his house. I hit the floor, throwing my head back in the air. "What's all this?" My cell phone had been taken before I was brought here. Although I was free to move around the house, there was no way to contact the outside world, and I wondered what was happening to Luna and my parents now. Though I've already pissed off Alexander Hart, and the rest of the thing to do now is to stay good and stay out of trouble and wait for him to come back and deal with me when he's done with the rest of his business. But I was really worried about Luna. It's said that a family feud is as deep as the sea. Our Luna is only 2 years old, so simple, kind and innocent. How can she grow up to be a sunny and cheerful flower if she's caught up in that kind of feud? It's been written in idol dramas that all children in a wealthy family have childhood shadows. Ooh, we can't have that with Luna, for Luna's sake. I decided not to be a sitting duck. So I felt my way up to the second floor and found his study. The computer in his study had a password. Could it be his birthday? I mused. But what was his birthday? I sat down at the computer and pondered. When I had taken his ID in Hawaii, I remembered that he was a Scorpio and finally pieced together his birthday from a vague memory. But the computer didn't show it right. Could it be one of his other important dates? But what other important days does he have, when that didn't make sense? I started digging through Alexander Hart's bookcase. True to form, he had an entire wall of huge bookcases, and any book on them was extraordinary. As I rummaged through them, I meditated on the Amitabha Buddha, as if that would alleviate my guilt. I rummaged around for a while and eventually turned up a box amongst the rows and rows of expensive books. This box seemed to have just been opened and left unlocked. Intuition told me that this was something unusual. I was a little freaked out. Nothing in the mansion was to be touched, but for Luna's sake I decided to take a gamble. I opened the small box and unexpectedly found that it wasn't anything expensive inside, just a very ordinary notebook, and in the box was a sunflower hairpin and a light purple handkerchief. I opened the first page of the notebook, which read Frowny Face, March 12, 2011. This is the first time I ran into her. Dig. It turns out that the high and mighty Alexander Hart likes to play the crush trick. I didn't dare to read the rest of it. I was afraid that Alexander Hart would kill me if he knew about it, but I remembered the date, so I tried typing 110312 into the computer. I got it right. I folded my arms and thanked the girl in the diary whom I had never met. After putting my things back where I found them, I logged on to Alexander Hart's computer and went back to the short video page. The assistant was managing the account at work, and it was just about time to post the video. So she posted the previous inventory. Little did the fans know that their favorite baby and hot mom had been kidnapped. I searched some more news about Alexander Hart and learned quite a bit about him. There is very little information about him online, and as the eldest son of the Hart family, he is not like the dudes in his circle. Before he took charge of the Hart family, he barely showed his face and kept a low profile. He took over the reins of Hart family from his father over 2 years ago, and he rarely shows up on social media either. Plus, my industry is completely different from theirs, so I didn't even notice that the person in charge of Hart family now is the same Alexander Hart that I messed with in the first place. Who would have thought that I casually in Hawaii to find handsome actually come head so big? Who wouldn't say I'm a lucky girl? There was no way to contact my parents, but from what I could tell online, nothing had come out about Luna yet. I watched our account's followers grow with each passing day, and my heart felt a lot more solid. We had so many followers that the Hart family wouldn't dare do anything to us anytime soon. I had a hangover from last night, and with all this tossing and turning, it was getting late and Alexander Hart showed no signs of coming back, so I found a bottle of water in the fridge and drank it before falling asleep against the couch. I don't know how long. I vaguely noticed that there was someone beside me, but my eyelids were too heavy. I couldn't open my eyes. I could only allow myself to be picked up by the other person. I was carried to the room. I may be sleepyhead. A moment actually cannot distinguish between reality and dreamed. I and the other party to carry me to the bed. The moment I smiled twice, reached out and pulled the other party's collar to bring him toward me. While pulling, I also said in a demented tone, "Hey, handsome, give me a touch." I obviously felt the person pressing on me stiffen. But when I saw that he didn't dodge, and thinking that I was in a dream, I intensified my efforts. I directly ripped the shirt from his waist and slipped my hand inside. As soon as my fingertips touched the angular, excellent-feeling 8-pack abs, I let out a sigh of contentment. Just as I was about to ravage them again, I heard that familiar but cold voice, "Vivian, when?" It was like a hook from Hades, and my drowsiness was instantly dispersed. I opened my eyes to meet Alexander Hart's eyes that were almost spitting fire, and was so scared that I tried to sit up violently, but I was pressed back down on the bed by his shoulders. He towered over me. I tried to struggle, but he took hold of my wrists and confined me to the bed. I gasped in shock. He snorted coldly, "You're still just as horny as you were before." I wanted to break away from him, but after trying, he was able to hold both of my wrists with one hand. His physical strength hung in the balance, and he was much bigger than me. I could only show Weakness, I immediately let myself soften down and wink at him. It's horny because it's you. He didn't say anything, just looked at me like that. With a serious expression he frowned and scolded me. Vivian, when I advise you to settle down. Although his expression remained the same, I could hear his aggravated breathing and the color of his eyes grew deeper and deeper. Intuition told me it's easy to take him down now. The silk nightgown I wore was incredibly silky, and as soon as I moved my shoulders the dress slid down my shoulders, revealing my white, fragrant shoulders. Coupled with the movement of my raised legs, my white thighs were revealed under the nightgown. Alexander Hart. I called his name softly in the softest voice I could muster in my life. As expected, his form stiffened and his eyes darkened, trying to seduce me again. Alexander Hart laughed softly. I laughed back. That's not seduction, that's just love. We're all adults and he's Luna's father. So I don't mind if seduction gets him to leave Luna and I alone. He pinched my waist. Then show me how deep in love you really are. When I woke up the next day, Alexander Hart was gone, but there was a gold card attached to the bed that he had left behind with a note on it. Rewarded you. I gasped and laughed at once, knowing that this kid was holding a grudge for the fact that I left a bank card at his bedside 3 years ago and ran away. I picked up the card and scrutinized it and finally put it into my pocket. Joke, who doesn't want money for nothing? Besides, it was my manual labor that got me there. Although Alexander Hart gave me the gold card, he still wouldn't let me leave the house. When he wasn't home, I snuck into his study just like yesterday. First, I turned on his computer and watched the news, making sure that there was no news such as Hart family's illegitimate daughter coming out. Before I let go of my heart, I sat in Alexander Hart's study looking around at the decor that fit his persona and stood up to look around, wondering if these rich people would get a secret room like they do on TV. But the secret room was nowhere to be found, and I got to touch Alexander Hart's secret box again. Though it's an immoral thing to pry into someone's privacy, but Alexander Hart had ended my home, so it's okay for me to peep into his privacy. So I sat on the floor with my legs crossed and opened the diary in the box. The diary is from March 12, 2011 onwards. On March 12, 2011, 16-year-old Alexander Hart met a girl. In his diary he says that when he was a child he was sick, and because of the hormones that came with surgery and medication, his weight skyrocketed to 180 pounds. His family kept a low profile and people didn't know he was the eldest son of the Hart family, so he was always ostracized at school, if at all. He was always on his own, but his clothes weren't bad. So he was targeted by some people at school who didn't study well and colluded with gangsters from outside the school. After school, he was blocked in an alley by those men extorting money. Alexander Hart did not dare to resist, but could not fight and could not run away, so he could only give them all his money. Those people got a taste for it, so they asked him for money every day. Later on, their appetite grew bigger and bigger. Not satisfied with small amounts of money, they actually forced Alexander Hart to go home and steal money from his parents. When Alexander Hart refused, he was beaten and kicked by several men. It was at this time that the heroine of Alexander Hart's diary appeared. While Alexander Hart was being punched and kicked, a bucket of slop fell from the sky and splashed the men. Soon after, a few boys appeared and fought with the men. Alexander Hart fell to the ground and a girl in a school uniform rolled over the fence, grabbed his hand and ran out. Alexander Hart didn't know what to do, but the girl was bright and breezy and took him by the hand and pulled him out of the dimly lit alleyway and into the sunny light. The girl said that she had seen Alexander Hart being blackmailed several times but had been too alone to say anything before. This time, when she saw him beaten, she realized that the punk's nemesis was not far away, so she lured those guys over. She poured the slop as well. The diary used a lot of ink to describe the girl. Alexander Hart humble crush on this girl, afraid that if he bared his raging love he would scare this girl away. The girl was a year younger than he was, and they were in the same gym class. Alexander Hart was fat and almost no one wanted to play with him, so he was alone in every gym class. That day he was sitting on a stone chair in the sunshine watching everyone play when a volleyball was thrown at him. He looked up after catching the volleyball and saw the girl's bright smile. She asked, "What are you doing sitting in the sun?" Alexander Hart looked at the shaded area. The seats were all taken by girls and he would probably be disliked if he went over there. The girl, perhaps sensing his dilemma, dragged him to her class area to play pickleball. Some of the boys coaxed her to play with the big fat guy. She took off her shoes and threw them in people's faces. Alexander Hart said that was the most fun he's ever had in a gym class. He didn't have much contact with the girl, who was a year younger and pretty and had a great personality, and she was always surrounded by friends. He could only watch from afar, watching his sun shine brightly. He was greedy and inferior. How many times he wanted to take the initiative to find her but was always scared off by the group of friends around her. So for a whole year or so, their relationship didn't go any further. I saw this and silently closed the diary. It turns out that Alexander Hart, who is now the head of the powerful Hart family, has such a pathetic experience. According to my past experience of watching idol dramas, Alexander Hart must have been thinking about this girl all these years and looking for her. Their love would be celebrated and they would become a talented couple envied by everyone in the circle. Then, my words would be the evil female spouse who used despicable means to borrow seeds, give birth to Hart bloodline, and destroy the relationship between the hero and heroine and my character, and this girl is a little bit like, it is possible that Alexander Hart was with me in Hawaii in the first place because of the Ivana class secretary. Suddenly knowing the secret, I was not good. All of a sudden, Alexander Hart came back earlier today. I had just cooked myself a bowl of noodles when he opened the door and came in, meeting me at eye level as I was about to chow down. I smiled awkwardly. It was in his house after all, so I was polite. Would you like a bowl? My chopsticks were still holding the noodles and I didn't want to put them down. I just wanted to wait for him to refuse and then I would feast on them. But to my surprise, 3 seconds after his eyes landed on my bowl, he HMMD. Then he sat across from me and took away the bowl in front of me and the chopsticks in my hand. Me, eat it, who could eat you? I was furious but dared not say anything. I could only hold my tongue and turn around to cook myself new noodles. By the time I finished cooking the noodles and brought them over, Alexander Hart had already finished eating. He had no intention of leaving either. I also ignored him and ate my own noodles. His eyes kept falling on me, making me a little uncomfortable, coupled with the fact that I had read his diary today and knew that he had someone else in his heart. I was even more distracted and the noodles didn't even smell good. I had only eaten a small half of the bowl before putting down my chopsticks. Mr. You should have also done a DNA comparison and know that Luna is your child. So what do you want by keeping me locked up here all this time? Who knew that he didn't answer positively but asked me in return, what do you think? I rolled my eyes in my heart. Of course I think you want to kill and then let Luna enter the Hart family as an illegitimate child and you'll find a stepmother for him at that time. But on the surface I still didn't move, showing a flattering expression to continue to please him. Don't worry, although Luna is your child, I never wanted to bring her back to compete for the family fortune. I even didn't know that his father would be you, so you can rest assured that I only need Luna. As long as you give Luna back to me, I will immediately roll far away and definitely won't affect your life. As for when you find someone you like in the future, I will also keep my mouth shut and say that you are keeping yourself safe for her. But the more I said, the uglier Alexander Hart's face became. He stared at me, his eyes cold. Just Luna? I nodded my head like garlic. Nothing else? Yes. You don't care if I find someone I like and get married? Yes. You're dreaming. Alexander Hart suddenly became furious and after dropping a vicious sentence he turned around and went back to his study and slammed the door hard. I froze in place, spitting at the capitalists for being so temperamental. Alexander Hart stayed in the study until late at night, and I saw that he had no intention of coming out before I went to bed. When it was time to go to bed, I unlocked the door. I went to bed especially early on days when I didn't have a cell phone, but I was just about to fall asleep when the door was broken open. Outside the broken door stood the Hades-like Alexander Hart. He was holding the broken doorknob and looked angry. Why was it unlocked? I was also blindsided and hugged the quilt and replied, defense against you. He ended up getting even angrier. The result of his anger was that my back was even more sore the next day. He disappeared again early the next morning. I held my sore back and soaked in the tub for most of the day to get some relief. I walked past the study in my bathrobe and God forbid I went back in to look for the diary. I'd just gotten halfway through it yesterday and I still didn't know what Alexander Hart had ended up doing with that girl. I fished out the journal and sat cross-legged on the floor to read it. There wasn't a lot of content in the back of the diary. It was all from Alexander Hart's personal perspective and he never crossed paths with the girl in any other way. In the diary he said that after a year the girl changed schools. It just so happened that his family knew that he was being bullied at school, and they also helped him to transfer and sent him straight to study abroad. Now the two went their separate ways. The diary for the next few years is all about trivial daily life with occasional mentions of the girl, but they are just Alexander Hart's thoughts. I didn't have the patience to read through it bit by bit, so I casually flipped to the back, scanned it and realized it said, I can't believe I ran into her again. But I was just about to scroll down when the door to the study was opened from the outside. Alexander Hart appeared behind the door. Because I was so weak from peeking at people's diaries, I didn't even dare to turn on the lights and could only rely on the sunlight coming in through the curtains to peek. Now when he opened the door he swished the light on. I was like a thief caught red-handed. The third second I locked eyes with him I realized that I couldn't hide. So I closed the diary and threw it aside. My cross-legged position quickly shifted to kneeling on the floor, and then folded my hands together with great sincerity. I am sorry, I was wrong. I can't help it, I'm in the wrong and Luna is still in his hands, so I can only be soft first. He just stood in the doorway looking at me with wooden eyes. I couldn't tell how he was feeling at the moment, but if I were him and my own secret was discovered I'd be angry too. I cautiously looked at the window next to me that wasn't closed tightly, thinking to myself that he'd wait to throw me out of here. Just when I was apprehensive, he suddenly took a step toward me. I can only admit it, after all, peeping at other people's diary, this kind of thing is originally not right. So when he took a step towards me I had already thought of 180 possibilities. In the end I crossed my heart and opened my hands to make a bearable gesture. Then I shouted, if you want to kill or kill me, come at me, don't hurt Luna. But the expected punishment didn't come. When I opened my eyes what I saw was Alexander Hart squatting in front of me. His expression was mild and he didn't look half angry. I froze. Was he confused with anger? As a result he picked up the diary and his eyes fell back to my face, still gentle. Where do you see it? I felt like it was the darkness before dawn and my voice shivered straight away. Look, see, you see her again. I actually wanted to say that I hadn't seen it yet, but I couldn't say it with a bit of shivering. Then he laughed and continued to ask me. So, do you remember anything? Me. I was inwardly shocked, thinking, are rich people playing so perverted that they want to teach me a lesson and I have to think of it myself? I spoke cautiously and tentatively. What did you think of? Thinking of his new hatred and old hatred together. Ooh, this man is too scary. You really don't think of anything. Alexander Hart's eyes changed when he said that. I was even weirder, and after a long brainstorming session I shook my head at his expectant gaze. After I shook my head Alexander Hart's eyes dropped, and they seemed to darken. He looked down at the journal and some emotions I couldn't understand welled up in his eyes. Even as slow as I was I sensed that something was wrong with Alexander Hart, but just as I was about to symbolize my concern for him he casually tossed the diary at me and stood up, resuming his usual pompous demeanor. I held the diary with a baffled look on my face. Was this a sign that he didn't want it straight away because he thought I had defiled his diary? I raised my eyes to look at him and his cold eyes landed on me. As of today I return your freedom. Alexander Hart left after saying this. I went back to my bedroom and thought for a long time, but eventually changed into my own clothes and prepared to go home. When I passed by the living room on the first floor I accidentally found my favorite dessert on the dining table. Thinking that he went out just now, he should have gone to buy dessert. He should also have some good feelings for me, that's why he bought me dessert, and as a result once he came back I saw that I was peeking at the diary he wrote to White Moonlight. Me and White Moonlight, it must be White Moonlight that's important. So he's kicking me out now. Thinking of this a sourness ripples through the tip of my nose. Just leave. What's the big deal? I was taken captive by him and I didn't have much luggage when I left. The things I wore and used in the past few days he let me prepare before leaving. But I didn't take anything. I got home safely and my assistant was watching the master laborer fixing the front door of my house. As soon as she turned her head and saw me she whimpered and pounced on me. Boss, you're finally back. It's only been a few days since I left, but Alexander Hart cut me off from the outside world and it feels like years. Mom and Dad don't know I did this back in Hawaii. All I told them at first was that I broke up with my ex-boyfriend and planned to raise the baby on my own. Now the father of the child came to the door and took Luna away. My mom was so anxious that she couldn't sleep and gave me a message. I don't care what kind of problems you have with this scummy ex-boyfriend of yours, but if he dares to touch Luna, I'll fight him to the death. I calmed her down while drinking the soup she made. Don't worry Mom, I'll bring Luna back even if I bloody the Hart family. That's what I said, but I don't have a clue on how to bring Luna back. Are you kidding? That's the Hart family. I just have a little bit of money. Nothing compared to the Hart family, but what's certain is that Alexander Hart won't do anything to Luna for a while. I can concentrate on the work I've left behind. Luna's account continued to grow in popularity and influence, and the sales of the company's products also went up, but I was not happy at all. On this day I followed my assistant to talk about cooperation, and the other party was a man who seemed to be gentle and courteous. 40 years old or so. Looks like a talent. Workability is also good. Their company has the intention to cooperate with us to open a new industrial line. There were only me, my assistant, him and his special assistant in the box. Seeing that the cooperation was finalized, I poured myself a glass of white wine. Boss Song is quick to do things. It's my honor to work with you. I'll toast you with this glass of wine. I had a good capacity for alcohol. Even though I had already drunk quite a bit just now, I was still sober after this glass of white wine. Boss Song seemed to be in a pleasant mood as well, but after I put down the cup he gave my assistant and his assistant a wink. Businessmen always have something to say that can't be seen in the light of day, and I understand that. So let my assistant go out with his assistant. I thought he had something to say to me about work, but who would have thought that as soon as the assistant left, Boss Song just moved over and sat in the seat next to me, his side tilting towards me as well. Ms. Vivian Wen, what do you think of me as a person? I sensed that there was a hint of bad news, but I was afraid that the other party didn't mean that and that I would make too much of a fuss instead. So still wearing a smile, Boss Song is a very successful businessman. Hey, it's not that. He sked and held my hand directly with a drunkenness. Let's not talk about work right now. From the perspective of a woman looking at a man, what do you think of me as a person? I probably know about this Mr. Song's background. He married his college girlfriend in the early years and had 2 children, but in the first few years he had a bad relationship and divorced his wife, splitting most of his property. But he didn't have any complaints and would still throw money at his kids to settle things. Maybe it's because I have Luna myself, so when I see people who are nice to their kids, I always drop my defenses against them, but this behavior of his has made me uncomfortable. I pulled back my hand with an awkward smile. Mr. Song, you're drunk. I am not drunk. Vivian Wen, I've liked you from the first moment I saw you. You're single. I'm single, and you can see my condition. I am most annoyed by people who do rogue things in the name of work, letting me make no money and inexplicably getting a mouthful of shit shoved down my throat. I held back my nausea and continued to smile, thinking that in the end, I was the one who signed the contract to work with and couldn't tear my face off. Mr. Song, I will not consider this aspect for the time being. Who knew that he was agitated? How can you not consider it? You are almost 30, right, and still with a child. In a few years you will know. No one will want a woman in her 30s who still has a child. I like you now, that's why I don't think about it. Laozi Fengji is 28 years old. I held back my anger. I don't want you to bother. I will handle my love life by myself even if I end up alone. I can afford to raise my daughter. I see that you are really drunk. I will ask your assistant to take you back to rest, I said and stood up, intending to go to the door to call for someone who knew that he heard the rejection in my words and became directly annoyed, flipping his face and coldly grunting. Ms. Vivian Wen, you are too ungrateful. It's an honor to have my eyes on you, or else you'd be carrying around a little bastard of unknown origin. What guy would be able to look at you? Although you have a lot of fans now, your daughter is fatherless in the end, and in the future she will not be able to raise her head when she grows up. He said, and even reached out to pull me down, squeezing my hand with a lewd face. Speaking of me, I can put up with it for the money, but when it comes to Luna, I can't be persuaded even if the King of Heaven comes. Coupled with the recent events, depression into a disease, pressure in the heart, cannot breathe. After drinking wine is even more bold. I directly pull back my hand, backhand slap over. You're the bastard. Because I hit first, Mr. Song directly reported to the police. At the police station, the assistant was confronting his assistant. I heard it at the door. He was the one who was beaten up because he was unsuspecting and wanted to make a move. The other assistant said, nonsense, how could our Mr. Song do that kind of thing? You said it was our Mr. Song who tried to make a move. Show me the evidence. There was no surveillance in the box. He was sure that I couldn't produce evidence, that's why he was so arrogant. I looked up at Mr. Song, who was sitting across from me. My slap wasn't too strong. His glasses flew off by me. He also screamed at me, Vivian Wen, you're finished. I'll cancel this cooperation, and I'll have my lawyer sue you. It's not that I haven't encountered this kind of thing in my day-to-day life and I've never been afraid of trouble, but at the moment, I was afraid of trouble. I just want to go home and sleep well. I looked down at my cell phone contacts and saw a string of numbers in there. It's an extra number I found after I came out of Alexander Hart's house. I guessed it was Alexander Hart's. At this moment I instinctively felt that he would be able to take care of the trouble for me. So I dialed the number. Toot toot toot. After 3 rings the phone was answered. The voice over there was a bit noisy and there was the sound of people playing cards, presumably in some private club. I tentatively fed a sound over there. Instantly quiet. Playing cards, playing. And even the sound of music have lowered the volume. The man on the other end of the phone had a low voice. A soft hummed. I got straight to the point. I am at the XX police station. Someone said your daughter is a wild child. There was a 2-second pause. Wait for me. I was actually quite apprehensive before I called. Would he answer? Would he come? This apprehension intensified after he said to wait for me. Until half an hour later. The tall man appeared in front of the police station. He was followed by two people, one was his assistant and the other was a lawyer. Mr. Song seemed to know Alexander Hart, and after seeing Alexander Hart he directly ignored my presence and greeted him with a fawning smile. Mr. He, why are you here? But Alexander Hart's line of sight bypassed him and landed on me, after I flung Mr. Song. He tried to fight back, splashing red wine all over me during the argument and messing up my hair. Now I was in such a sorry state. He ignored Mr. Song and took a step in front of me, reaching out to me. I was the one who called people to come, so I didn't squirm and held his hand and stood up. His eyes fell on my face. Hurt? I nodded and put my fingers up. The manicure almost split when I slapped it earlier. Alexander Hart didn't finish the rest of his business either, pulling me outside. When Mr. Song saw Alexander Hart pulling me, his face was worse than eating a fly. He wanted to go up and explain something but was stopped by Alexander Hart's assistant. Hello, please communicate with me if there is anything. My assistant also stayed behind to join in the aftermath. Alexander Hart had already taken me away. The driver was waiting outside. I got in the back seat of the car with him and entered the confined space before I smelled the odor of alcohol on him. Where to? He asked. Home, I said, thinking, and then added, back to my house. He didn't say anything and was silent for a long time before he gave a faint The driver was also very cooperative, and when he was instructed to do so, he stepped on the gas. On the way, Alexander Hart did not say anything. He closed his eyes to rest. I looked sideways. Outside the car window is a red light set off his side profile more perfect. Rich people are different from rich people. A class act like Alexander Hart, you can't see any of the worldliness of money in him, but between his hands and feet there is a sense of tiredness and relaxation after his desires have been fulfilled. You can't see the money, but it's everywhere. People like him. If not when in Hawaii I went to hook up with him, we probably would not have crossed paths in this life. Perhaps noticing my gaze, he opened his eyes and asked me, what are you looking at? I smile and don't try to hide it. Looking at you, you look good. He lets out a soft laugh, seemingly amused. For the rest of the ride, the mood in the car seemed much more relaxed. The driver drove me to the door and I glanced over at Alexander Hart. No emotion could be seen on his face. Is there anything you want to say to me? He spoke before I could say anything. My hand lurched as I opened the car door. That's what he told me to mention. So I turned around and replaced it with a fawning smile. When is Luna going to send me back? She'll be sad if she doesn't see her mom. Get out. Before my words left my mouth, he told me to get lost. What else could I do? I could only roll away. After getting out of the car, he also did not forget to curse a sentence. You asked me to mention it and then you told me to get lost, you inconsistent man. I went back to the house, opened the computer in the study to deal with the work for a while before entering the bathroom to wash off all the fatigue. When I returned to my room in my pajamas after the shower, ready to close the curtains and go to bed, I unexpectedly found that Alexander Hart's car was still parked downstairs. Only the windows were half lowered and I couldn't tell if the person inside was looking at me, probably stopping to take care of work for a while. I'll just not make a fool of myself. So I closed the curtains and lay down on the bed, but I don't know if it's because of the boredom of my mind, but although my body is very tired, I can't sleep. I opened my cell phone and saw that it was more than 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up to open the curtains again, but the people and cars downstairs were gone. Sure enough, it wasn't for me. Alexander Hart stepped in and I didn't have to worry about the outcome of how things were handled. The assistant told me the result the next day. Cooperation as usual. Mr. Song was fired from his original company, and the scandalous things he had done before were shaken out. It turned out that his wife divorced because he PC and took public money to support mistress. This matter was handled quite smoothly, but I didn't expect that new trouble would come. I don't know where the rumor came from. I am on the hot spot with Luna and Alexander Hart. The phrase that the Munchkin internet star was the illegitimate son of a wealthy family was high on the hot search list. My worst fears had come true. I was expecting the Hart family to care about their reputation and make a move to bring the hot search down, but it's been most of the day and still nothing. I was about to call Alexander Hart when someone came to my office. After rushing into my office, Ms. Lee, a plutocrat with Valentino feet, a Chanel suit and a Hermes bag, picked up the hot coffee on my desk and threw it directly at me. Of course it didn't splash me and got herself scalded by the coffee. She screamed in place, "You bitch, you actually seduced Mr. Hart." I froze. May I ask who you are? I admit to seducing Alexander Hart because I did. But what is this big lattice relationship with Alexander Hart, and who is she to control me and find my company? She grunted, her chin held high. I grew Up with Mr. Hart together. Unlike you women, I'm going to be engaged to him later. I raised an eyebrow. I'm sorry, but in all the time I've known him I've never heard of him being engaged to anyone. That's true. When I was in Hawaii I made sure he was single before I went for it. I figured I wouldn't mess with a married man. I seemed to have completely enraged her with this comment. She directly pointed at me and cursed. I've seen a lot of you women. Do you think you can marry into the Hart family just because you climbed into Mr. Hart's bed? Let me tell you, the Hart family doesn't look at the likes of you. I ignored her and she started smashing things. My whole mind was on Luna. Just now I saw someone saying on the internet that Luna was an illegitimate daughter of unknown origin. I was too busy getting evidence and calling the police to bother with this woman. So when she pounced on me and was about to hit me, the assistant had already called for security. There was no way for her to get close to me, so she could only smash my office to pieces. I instructed my assistant, pay attention to what she smashed and call the police to give a good price. After saying that, I went out the door, and that plutocratic missy still wanted to pounce on me and hit me. The assistant directly held her legs and dragged her to prevent her from leaving. The assistant also shouted, "Boss, run. They'll take care of the aftermath." My head was full of black lines. Those who didn't know thought I was a young lady being chased in ancient times. Hart family doesn't care about this matter. I do. I directly contacted a few big marketing numbers and asked them to assist me in sending out a statement saying that Luna is definitely not an illegitimate child, and is definitely not a tool that I used to marry into a wealthy family. These few marketing numbers also love Luna under their skin. Plus I hit them with a lot of money and they immediately put together the material. As soon as the video came out, the online buzz turned quite a bit. When the marketing numbers video blew up big time, the Hart Group's official account also posted a statement. The Hart family has never had any talk of illegitimate children. This statement directly shattered the rumors, and all the doubts dissipated. I am also relieved. Finally, no one will scold Luna. But then I thought, the Hart family is not recognizing Luna's existence. Alexander Hart's face appeared in my mind. Did he too not want Luna? A pang of sadness rose in my heart. He and I were just casual acquaintances, and I was the one who gave birth to Luna without authorization, so if Alexander Hart didn't recognize it, I would admit it. But I wasn't sad for long. Women are weak, but mothers are strong. In front of the child, there is no need to talk about feelings. The Hart family didn't recognize Luna, so why did they take her away? I found a private detective the other day and have been following Alexander Hart and have already found out that Luna is now in the Hart family's old house. Before I was concerned about the Hart family elders, but now I can't care so much. I went home to change a convenient clothes. I looked for Hart family old house. At first I thought I would walk in openly and bring Luna back. In the end, before I reached the gate, I saw that Hart family's fence was broken in one place. Seeing that no one was around, I went straight in. This time is the peak of summer 3 volts day. There is not much people in the yard, although there are a lot of surveillance, but I have dared to come in to steal people, but still afraid of what surveillance directly strutted into the as I was walking. There were 2 little girls walking towards me with tea wearing the same clothes. As soon as they saw me, they also froze. But today's news is too explosive. Luna lives in Hart family. They must know me too. I got straight to the point. I am here to see Luna. The 2 little girls looked at each other and smiled, and one of them made an inviting gesture to me. You come with me. I followed her through the winding colonnade to a small garden where I could hear the sound of small children giggling from a distance. It was Luna's voice. The little girl signaled my arrival and she turned and retreated. When she was gone, I slowly approached. By the pond garden, it wasn't just Luna, but an old lady with gray hair. I'd been following the Hart family in the news lately and recognized this as Alexander Hart's grandmother. She was playing with Luna, who was wearing a little Chinese dress, her hair tied in 2 pigtails and a gold heirloom locket around her neck. She ran after a butterfly and accidentally fell on the grass. Grandma, he immediately trotted over nervously. Egu, my good great-grandson, don't fall and break it. I couldn't help but frown. How is this not quite the same as I imagined? Didn't the Hart family issue a statement saying that the Hart family doesn't have any illegitimate children? I originally thought that Luna's situation in Hart family's old mansion would not be good, but seeing it like this now, how it feels like she has melted. And I stood in the shadows and watched grandmother Hart play with Luna. When she got tired of playing, Luna sat down on a chair in the gazebo and drank the fruit tea grandmother Hart handed over. She grimaced, Great-grandma, how long until I see my mommy? Woohoo, my baby girl remembers me. Grandmother Hart sighed. Great-grandma wants to see your mommy too. Who made your dad no good? He hasn't fixed your mommy after all this time. That was quite a surprise to me. After hearing it for so long, it would be rude of me not to go out. I stepped out from the shadows and Luna saw me right away and jumped at me with joy. Mommy. I hugged him and then curtsied to the old lady. Mrs. Hart, please forgive me for coming uninvited. I just wanted to see Luna so badly. Grandmother Hart wasn't surprised and greeted me with a smile as I sat down. Jean brought you here, didn't he? I was a bit embarrassed, but I confessed, no, I came in over the wall myself. Who knew? Grandmother Hart suddenly changed her face. Useless thing. Seeing me freeze, the old lady immediately explained, I'm not scolding you, I'm scolding my useless grandson. I told him the other day that he would take care of it and bring you back, but it turns out that the kid still screwed up. I was a bit puzzled. It's reasonable to say that others would be suspicious when they know that their grandson has a child outside. Plus the Hart family is posh, and like the woman who came to my door today said, more than a few women who want to climb into Alexander Hart's bed. After thinking about it, I still asked, Mrs. Hart, aren't you afraid that I'm the type of person who wants to use Luna as a tool to marry into a wealthy family? Who knew? That Grandmother Hart smiled. I worry about others, but you, relieved, huh? What's the deal? I've had nothing to do with Grandmother Hart. I didn't do anything to say. The old lady. Seeing my confusion, Grandmother Hart started to explain to me. It was only after she reminded me of this that I remembered a past incident. Grandmother Hart said when King was a teenager he got sick and his weight skyrocketed after taking medication, and he became a little fat boy. He was bullied at school, but he was too good to tell us about it, and since his parents were busy with their work, no one found out that he was being bullied. It wasn't until he came back later with a bruise that we realized he had been bullied at school. We tried to help, but he said that someone had already helped him teach those people a lesson. Then later, he told us that he had made friends at school. What Grandmother Hart said I had read in his diary. So there wasn't much up and down in my heart. But Grandmother Hart added, but then the girl moved on and we let him study abroad. During the years he studied abroad, he lost weight, but his character was still a bit inferior, and he refused to have a girlfriend until 3 years ago. He traveled to Hawaii and called me to tell me that he met that girl again. 3 years ago, Hawaii, the girl he was talking about. It couldn't be me, right? Seeing my shocked face, Grandmother Hart gave me an affirmative answer. That's right, that girl is you. But he told me that the girl didn't remember him anymore. So he had to come back and disgraced. I thought that was the end of it, but some time ago he suddenly told me that he had found you and that you had a child. Originally I didn't believe it until he brought Luna to me. After his mom and dad died, it was just me and him at home, cold and quiet, so Luna's appearance was a gift from heaven. I was shocked. So Alexander Hart and I have known each other for a long time? I thought back carefully to my middle school days when I was 15 and now I'm 20. 8.13 years have passed. I was originally a helpful character during my middle school years and I had helped many people, plus I did not have a deep friendship with the little fat guy at the time. As for what Alexander Hart mentioned in his diary, that girl transferred to another school. I didn't transfer school at all because when I saw the righteousness and injured my leg I took a break from school. So the little fat man I saved in the beginning was really Alexander Hart, so I was before all jealous of myself. Before my mind could turn, Grandmother Hart smiled and took me back to rest, saying that I should stay for dinner tonight. Luna has the beautiful princess room here, and everyone is polite to her, calling her Mississippi. I feel relieved that the Hart family has accepted her. I rested in Luna's room. Luna was happy to see me. Mom, you finally came to see me. Great Grandma said that Mom was angry with Dad and that's why she couldn't come to see me. Is that right? I sighed and took that as a default. Luna gave me a hug. Daddy is very good looking and treats Luna very well. He even prepared a very big diamond ring and said he's going to propose to Mommy, so don't be mad at Mommy. A marriage proposal. I remembered Alexander Hart's cold face. How could he propose to me? When it was time for dinner, Grandmother Hart called us over for dinner and 7 or 8 maids were busy preparing the meal. Just as I took my seat, the old lady said, I've already called that bastard to come back and I think he'll be here soon, so you guys have a good meal first and then we'll talk it over. It wasn't long before the sound of a car engine came from outside, then the sound of footsteps approached and Alexander Hart appeared in front of me in a decent black suit. His eyes flashed with delight when he saw me, but soon he regained his composure and asked me, what are you doing here? I smiled slightly. Grandma and Luna told me to come. Grandmother Hart was not satisfied with his tone and said in a deep voice, I told him to come. If you can't speak properly you can leave it alone for now. Under Grandmother Hart's coordination he quietly sat across from me. The meal was eerily atmospheric, but ever since I realized it was me in his diary all I wanted to do was laugh. This kid, the last few days have turned out to be all about lust. It was hard to get through the meal, but Grandmother Hart happily led Luna away. I looked over at him. Show me around. Alexander Hart doesn't squeak, but is already on his feet, leading me through the back garden. Walking in the porch pavilion above the pond, he opens his mouth first. Grandma told you everything? I hummed. So why didn't you tell me before? He was silent for a moment, because and angered, I didn't say anything, and he added, I thought you had recognized me in Hawaii, but as it turns out, you just wanted to parental termination and just ran off without me. I was a little embarrassed. I had indeed done something wrong. So, if I never recognized you, do you not like me anymore? He stopped walking and turned to look me straight in the eyes. He was born with beautiful eyes, and before in bed in the depths of love I would always be attracted to his eyes and fall. After meeting his eyes he said very formally, no, I'm just angry. When I'm not angry I'll come to you. Dare I say that the reason he's been so squirmy the last few days is because he's sulking. I thought for a moment and added, then your official account, how come you issued a statement saying that there are no illegitimate children in your family? I thought it was because he didn't want to acknowledge Luna, who knew that he said, Luna is my biological child, the first and only child of the Hart family's generation. How could she be a bastard? So that's what he meant, I asked again. Luna said that you have a big diamond ring for me and are going to propose to me. He didn't deny it and nodded. My eyes lit up. Where's the diamond ring? The corner of his mouth twitched. You're happier to see a diamond ring than you are to see me. He sneered, resuming his usual underhanded look. I am still angry, so I'm not going to give it to you yet. When I heard that couldn't be right. I definitely wanted my big diamond ring before it was too late. So I stood on my tiptoes and dropped a kiss on his lips, then looked at him with anticipation. Are you still angry now? There was a flash of movement in his eyes, but soon he took over and slowly pressed closer to me. Vivian, when, that's not how you pleased me in Hawaii. I blushed a little, even though I'm essentially a big pervert, but this was the old house after all, and Luna and Grandma he were there. I could only turn my head to avoid him as he was already approaching. It's not good to be seen later. Who knew that he would directly pinch my chin and force me to look at him. He smiled a compelling smile. Can't you see that there are no more people in the backyard? Grandma is intentionally creating an opportunity for us. After he reminded me of this, I just remembered when I went to eat just now, there were people all the way, but now, in the huge backyard, there is actually no one. My face turned red into a blood bun. His warm kiss fell on my lips. Let's not let Grandma down. Of course I stayed at the old house, and of course another night of back pain. The next day I slept until dawn, and when I woke up, I touched my cell phone and found that my assistant had sent dozens of calls. As soon as I answered the phone, my assistant's urgent voice came through. Woo boss, our Luna has become a super rich little princess. I saw the news from her WeChat. It turned out to be the official Hart family account that sent out the news in the middle of the night. It said that Luna is not an illegitimate child, but the eldest grandson of the Hart family. And as for me, hey race, what the statement said, the reason we haven't made it public before is because our president hasn't been recognized and named yet. Now it is official. Ms. Vivian Wen is Mr. Alexander Hart's fiancée, and the engagement ceremony will be held soon. As I watched, the bathroom door was opened, and a perfectly formed man appeared wrapped in a towel. He was surrounded by water vapor and slowly approached me in an ambiguous manner. He puts a huge diamond ring on my hand. So Ms. Vivian Wen, when do you have time to get a license with me and officially give me a title? Extra, the night after I got my license, Alexander Hart's friend sent me a video. In a private club, Alexander Hart, who has always been the head of the Hart family, was drunk, red-faced, and crying with his face covered. She doesn't remember me, she still only wants the baby, and when I said she was free, she left my house in a huff. She doesn't want me anymore. What should I do? I watched the man crying in the video, crying and laughing.